Hey, it's the final day of the year. We're closing out 2022, and I'm doing it with a review of a film that just dropped yesterday. I'm John Stark from HackedMovieGuy.com, and this is a review of White Noise. I'm a blind film critic, and this film does have audio description on Netflix. And no, it's not the Kevin Costner film from way back when, which I think everybody forgot about. I think that's what Netflix was hoping, was that everybody forgot Kevin Costner was starring a film called White Noise way back in the day, and it was awful. Anyway, just back in his like Dragonfly days, it was Costner, right? Now I'm thinking Costner was in Dragonfly and then somebody else was in White Noise. Anyway, the film was terrible, so I've deleted it from my brain. For the most part, I just know that a film called White Noise existed back in the early 2000s, and I hated it. So now it was a January release. I do remember that. So if you want to know where, it was a January horror title, and that should be enough for most movie fans to be like, oh yeah, one of those. Okay, gotcha, we're on board. Releasing a horror title in January has not proven to be very good for those films. However, releasing this at the end of December is, I don't know. I don't know what to say about this film. I really don't know what to say about this film. I could have not reviewed this and sat on it for a week, and I don't think I'd ever know what to say about this film. I'm flabbergasted. I'm aghast. I'm bamboozled. I am confuzzled. This film is so weird. It's so weird. This is a film that is not for everybody. I'm just gonna say that right now, and Netflix should run a disclaimer. This film is not for everybody. Not everyone who clicks play will like this film, or will understand it, or will get it, or will, appreciate it. This is no wonder this film is having a hard time getting nominations, because it's so in this zone, this odd zone, this Charlie Kaufman world. It's very weird that this film does not have a script by Charlie Kaufman. This film feels like it should have been written by Charlie Kaufman. I'm shocked that it was not written by Charlie Kaufman, because Noah Baumbach, does he put some interesting imagery in his stuff? Sure. But he also just writes straight up, like, decent titles. Just like, this is it. It's kind of quirky. Might be a little Wes Anderson-y for you, like The Squid and the Whale. It is what it is. There's nothing, don't read too much into this. It's not weird. There's not any crazy. And then White Noise is just, I don't know. He was on mushrooms or something. I know it's based on a book. I'm sure that dude was on mushrooms too. This is a weird film. I don't even know how to. It transcends genres. It has everything in it from horror elements to just obvious comedy, to drama, action. It tries to do everything. I heard this film had like a $200 million budget. I don't know if that's accurate, but I remember hearing that at one point back in the day. I could see where they spent 100, 200 concerns me. 200 is a lot. I mean, that's a lot of money, Netflix. This film doesn't even have like a deep cast, so it's not even like you can claim that it went to. You can't pay these actors that much money. I'm sorry, Adam Driver, Greta Gerwig, and Don Cheadle, they're not 10 million a film actors. So there's no way you did not spend money on this cast. I don't know what the movie was spent on, what the money was spent on, but if 200 million is the true budget of this film, then my God, the catering must have been amazing. It's so bizarre. I'm just gonna say that a lot, over and over. I don't like it. Actually, to be totally honest, I hated it at some points. I loved it at other points. See, that's the problem with white noise, is because it's so inconsistent and it's constantly trying to be something different, and each scene changes. And it's written, this is one of the weirdest and worst scripts I've read, but it also has some really great moments in it. So it's very it's a very frustrating film, because some scenes absolutely worked for me. Some scenes I loved. I actually really thought the kids were better than the adults. They cast some really great kids in this film. The film takes place sort of centered around Adam Driver and Greta Gerwig as being the parents. It's not their first marriage, so they have this sort of Brady Bunch group of kids from past marriages and their current marriage and everything, that all live together in this house. And while their banter is perhaps, I've seen some critics who think their banter is annoying. I actually thought their banter was done really well, more so than the adults. I thought the adults had a harder time handling banter than these kids do. These kids actually have really well-formed characters and distinct personalities. You've got the one that is constantly referring to like medical journals. You've got the other one who is, I mean, he's up there with the binoculars, trying to check out what this event is, and trying to stay up to date on the information about symptoms. You know, it's just, I felt like they were really well-rounded and consistent, whereas I felt like the adult characters were inconsistent and didn't make a whole lot of sense, and just adapted to whatever the scene needed them to be. But the kids stayed consistent throughout the film. They didn't change. They didn't become something else. If the kid had a certain personality, they just kind of stuck to that personality. And meanwhile, the adults are just, Adam Driver is whatever the film needs him to be at that point. He's either in a comedy, he's in a horror film. There's literally a jump scare in this film. I don't know why. I really don't. It's totally unnecessary. I've read the descriptions for this film where it's like, the film's about mortality and blah blah blah. And it's like, I didn't get any of that. This film is so all over the place, trying to be so many different things, that when it tries to land what the film is actually about to you, you're trying to think about what just happened before. It's like, so Adam Driver is a professor at this school, college on the hill, which, okay. And one of his friends is this fellow professor, Don Cheadle, whose character was just written for me to hate him. Every time he spoke, it was, Don Cheadle did a great job, by the way, because it's the way the character is written. But he did it very smiley. He did it very just sort of friendly. But like everything he says, it's just like, God damn it, you know, just like, what are you talking about? He opens the film smoking in his classroom, talking about car crashes, and then later on he wants to equate Elvis to Hitler, and it's just, every time you hear him speak, you're just like, what is up with your character? What is going on in this film? And there's just so much of that. Every time I was just, things interweave and they talk about something and then they'll come back to it later on and they'll be like, oh, hey, remember that thing we talked about? Oh, yeah, it's still a thing. Babette, or whatever her name, I think it was Babette, is Greta Gerwig's character's name. She mentioned something about like memory loss and having trouble with her memory. And when the film has time to tackle it later on, they finally get around to it. And after all of the craziness of driving all over Hell's Half Acre trying to avoid this this poison cloud thing, they finally get around to tackling the storyline about her memory that she mentioned like many moons ago, just a long time ago. Yeah, it's a very weird film. And it doesn't necessarily explain itself, nor do I feel like it feels like it needs to. I think this film knows it's weird. I think it knows that the people read the book and know that it's weird. I've heard other people use the term, because, you know, by the time I get to a film, fucking every other critic has reviewed this film, and several critics have read the book and reviewed the film and said that the book is unfilmable, which is one of the reasons why this film is struggling so much, is because when you adapt a book, people who read the book have an expectation of what needs to be in the film. It's the same thing I felt with you know, some of the other films this year, where I've read, you know, like Where the Crawdads Sing, and it just, yeah, I get it. It's when you've read the book, you become very critical of, like, what is happening? Why did you change that? I don't understand. Why did you leave that out? That doesn't make any sense. When you take that out, it doesn't make any sense. You know, and then it's hard for you to transport yourself to a world where you're that person who's never read the book, because you understand the backstory. So I have no idea what the people who read the book feel like they're missing out on. But for me, I feel like I need like a Cliff Notes version of, I need somebody to give me like a rundown of like what this film was supposed to be, what the intention is, because I don't think this film makes any sense at all. That being said, you know, I've seen films like this and I hated them, that didn't make any sense and didn't try to make any sense. I'm sure I'm gonna make a film buff cry, because I've seen some people put this in like their top 10 list of all time, but I fucking hated Synecdoche, New York. I hated that film. It's in like my worst films of all time. I'm on the way other end of the spectrum with that film. I felt like that film was just so pretentious. But then on the other end of the spectrum, I love films like Sorry to Bother You, which are clearly trying to do something really bizarre and different, and have elements to it that are just have no basis in reality. You know, it's like it goes way out there, way in left field. It leaves the field, and that's what White Noise does. It's like they told Noah Baumbach, "Here's your baseball field," and then they're like, "Where'd Noah go?" And they're like, "Oh, he's at Disney." And you're like, "We're in Iowa." And it's like, "No, he went to Disney." Oh, that's not even close to the ballpark we've given him. I know. He's down in Disney. I don't know what to tell you. You know, it's just, yeah, it's so all over the place. It feels like he had to have been high at some point during this film. If Noah Baumbach directed this film stone cold sober every single scene and wrote the script stone cold sober, lies. I call bullshit. At some point, this film is too trippy to not have a room full of people who were high sitting around being like, you know, it'd be really cool if we did this. Yeah, that'd be really cool. Doesn't make any sense, but we're gonna do it. So yeah, I could recommend this to certain people, because I think certain people would get a lot out of it. If you love Charlie Kaufman films, just like, I mean, if you have a top 10 list of all-time films and you have more than one Charlie Kaufman film in your top 10, done. This film was made for you. This film feels so much like something that he would write, where it's so disjointed, it's so it needs to be filtered, it's transcending thoughts and genres. It's just way out there. That is where White Noise lives. This is not a mainstream film. I was gonna have such a hard time getting nominations. I didn't even like the end song, because I was by the end of the film I was just like, is it over? are we done? Can I leave? And everybody's like, oh, this song is dope at the end. Some people thought the song at the end of the film was the best part of the movie. Um, I couldn't even, I was exhausted from trying to figure out how to follow the plot of this film. Because it's not always about what it says it's about. It's not always about the cloud. It's not always about protecting your family. It's not always about talking about mortality. Because sometimes the characters are they're too goofy to take seriously in any of those matters. So, and then when they want to be serious, it's so hard to take them serious. You know, you can't go around and run around like a doofus for the whole film and then try to have an intervention. It's just the two things don't coincide. They just don't work. So, I don't know what to say. I think the actors probably gave the performances they had to give based on the script. I don't know that they gave bad performances. I just think that the script is not great. I think Noah Baumbach's direction is all over the place. But I also know there's a source material here. So it's possible the book is just all over the place. Some books just are really hard to adapt. I would not want to watch a 1984 film. Having read the book, it's just not something I'm interested in. It's not a world that I feel like could be captured on screen. So I can imagine there are films like White Noise that are the same way. So yeah, the audio description here is not great. But it's not their fault. This film, these people do not shut up. It is impossible sometimes to get narration in. There were times when stuff was clearly happening and people were interacting with objects in the room, but they wouldn't shut up. So nobody could ever tell me what it was they were doing in the room, because the dialogue is just like frenetically unstoppable in some moments, where it's especially when you put multiple characters together, they just won't stop talking. So I got it when it was necessary in some of the more action heavy sequences, and also the one horror sequence that we get and the weird car crashes. This film loves to have car crashes, by the way. This film is all about car crashes. This film is like Final Destination 2, except like stretched over the whole fucking film. Like, if a car can crash, it's gonna crash. It just crashes so many cars. I think maybe that's where their budget went to, is they had to buy cars and crash them. So, I don't know. That's a $200 million. But yeah, it's not for everybody. Even if you listen to this review and you're like, oh, this sounds like something I might be interested in, or oh, I looked at the preview and I think it might be. I don't know that it will be. I really don't. I cannot tell you. It's got product placement, like really obvious product placement, which is fine. I mean, they even in the audio description, they're actually giving me like brands, like straight up Cheerios, you know. I mean, like the real true brands. So it's definitely interesting, and I think there's something to be said for when a filmmaker does take a big swing like this, to appreciate it. But I have a really hard time giving this a thumbs up. So on the bottom end of things, I'm giving it the highest grade of the thumbs down, like this a small thumbs down, because I just can't recommend it. I don't know who I would recommend this to, except for people who love just a very specific type of film. I just don't think this is an accessible film meant for everybody, which just makes it so weird that it has a $200 million budget. This is not the same as Don't Look Up. This is not the same. If somebody told you this is Don't Look Up, it's not Don't Look Up. Don't Look Up was accessible and made sense. It was just satire and funny. This is all over the place and tries to be 5 different genres rolled into one. And the way these characters speak will potentially annoy the ever-loving shit out of you. Absolutely annoy the shit out of you. It's what I'm telling you that I did not care about the A-list talent that they brought in, and the kids whose names I don't even know, and I don't know if I'll ever see them again. I actually thought they gave better performances and handled their dialogue better than the actors. I thought that the actors were just given like really just useless stuff to say all the time. But the kids were consistent in their characters. The adults were always just changing to whatever the film wanted them to be at that time. But their kids are fantastic. I think this has a great little group performance. I can't single out one child actor because they sort of, it almost like this a unit. Like they're always together, and they feed off of each other, bouncing back and forth. And it's not in that annoying way where kids nowadays talk and they talk about things like on Instagram or stuff. No, these kids talk rather intelligently back and forth about topics. So, they were my favorite part of the film. Weird. I know, weird. I know it's weird. It's gonna be weird for a lot of people who've seen this and like, you like the kids the best? Yeah, I did. I mean, there were some jokes that I thought were funny, like throughout, like randomly. I just thought something would be funny. Particularly there was one scene where Adam Brody, oh my god. Anyway, Adam Driver gets, he's potentially been exposed, and he's talking to this guy, and just the back and forth that he's having with this guy where he's trying to get the information. He's like, but have I been exposed? Am I in danger? And the guy's giving him these like just sort of like shitty responses. That scene was fine. It was funny. Other scenes just don't work. It's very inconsistent. So I'm gonna give White Noise a C-. I didn't totally hate the film. I did totally hate some scenes in this film and some aspects of this film. There's some aspects in this film that would make me punch Noah Baumbach. I'm just like, why on earth? Like, when you were in the editing room and you were putting this together, that was the best film you came up with. No, I wouldn't even remotely consider him for best director or best screenplay for this at all. I appreciate the swinging for the fences here, and trying to do something off the beaten path and something a little different, but it's just, sometimes that comes out to be kind of incoherent. And I thought at times the film was incoherent, at times the film was coherent. It's not the worst film I've seen. It's very far from the best film I've seen. So, C-. And that's it. So if you could subscribe, this is the last day. I'm not going to hit my 100 goal. I am, I believe, 6 people away. So unless 6 people love my White Noise review, I missed my year-end goal of 100. I know, I just wanted to be a triple-digit YouTuber. I'll hit it at some point next year, but it just won't feel as special because I was one of those campaign people. And I started it like months ago. When I was in like the 70s, I was like, oh, I feel like I could get like 25 more people by the end of the year. I got like 20. So we're good. Whatever. So thank you for everyone who has watched and subscribed to my videos this year. I'm also going to end up posting another review that I filmed before now, that I've just been sitting on because I watch more than one film a day. So I'm actually sitting on reviews from previous days. So I don't know what the other review is right now. And that's it. I will see you all in 2023. You can check out my website, macmovieguyy.com. You can follow me on Twitter at macmovieguyy. I'm going to be trying to expand my social media presence and start adding more things to that in 2023 and expand my reach. I want to keep talking about audio description in films and keep furthering that conversation so that we get more and more. You can go to the Audio Description Project, anyadna.org. And that's it for me. And I will review something else for you guys for next year. And see you on the other side.